Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll continue our reading from the Nectar of Devotion, the Complete Science of Bhakti-yoga by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Swami Prabhupada. Nectar of Devotion is, as you know, is the Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu by Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī. Mukam Kavati Vachalam Pangum Langayate Kiran Yat Kripatamam Vande Shri Gurum Deen Tarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. So let's first of all say the prayers to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunau Shadharma Samsthapakau Lokanam Hitakarinau Tribhuvane Manyau Sharanaya Karau Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajananandena Mattalikau Vande Rūpa Sanatanau Raghu Yugau Shri Jiva Gopalakau. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Srila Sanatana Goswami, Shri Rūpa Goswami, Shri Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Bhagavad Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Chapter 2 is the first stages of devotion. The 3 categories of devotional service which Srila Rūpa Goswami describes in Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu are listed as devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead. There are many subheadings in each of these categories. Generally, it is understood that in the category of devotional service and practice, there are 2 different qualities. Devotional service in ecstasy has 4 qualities, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead has 6 qualities. These qualities will be explained by Srila Rūpa Goswami later on. In this connection, Srila Rūpa Goswami suggests that the person eligible for Krishna or devotional service can be classified by his particular taste. He says that devotional service is a continual process from one's previous life. No one can take to devotional service unless he has had some previous connection with it. For example, suppose in this life I practice devotional service to some extent, even though it is not 100% perfectly performed. Whatever I have done will not be lost in my next life. From the very point where I stop in this life, I shall begin again. In this way, there is always a continuity. But even if there is no continuity, if only by chance a person takes interest in a pure devotee's instruction, he can be accepted and can advance in devotional service. Anyway, for persons who have a natural taste for understanding books like Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is easier than for those who are simply accustomed to mental speculation and argumentative processes. To support this statement, there are many authoritative assertions by the learned scholars of bygone ages. According to their general opinion, a person may become governed by certain convictions derived by his own arguments and decisions. Then other person who may be a greater logician will nullify these conclusions and establish another thesis. In this way, the path of argument will never be safe or conclusive. Srimad Bhagavatam recommends, therefore, that one follow in the footsteps of the authorities. Here is a general description of devotional service given by Sri Rūpa Goswami in his Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, or this Nectar of Devotion. Previously, it has been stated that devotional service can be divided into 3 categories, namely devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of God. Now, Sri Rūpa Goswami proposes to describe devotional service in practice. Practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. Therefore, devotional service in practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. Some of the senses are meant for acquiring knowledge, and some are meant for executing the conclusion of our thinking, feeling, and willing. So, practice means employing both mind and the senses in practical devotional service. This practice is not for developing something artificial. For example, a child learns or practices to walk. This walking is not unnatural. The walk capacity is there originally in the child, and simply by a little practice, he walks very nicely. Similarly, devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the natural instinct of every living entity. Even uncivilized men like the Aborigines offer their respectful obeisances to something wonderful exhibited by nature's law, and they appreciate that behind some wonderful exhibition or action there is something supreme. So, this consciousness, though lying dormant in those who are materially contaminated, is found in every living entity, and when purified, this is called Krishna consciousness. So I'm just going through. There's some nice pictures in this chapter. Just turning them, and this picture which describes on the rasas, shantaras, the neutral love of God. It says when the yogi sees the eternal form of Vishnu and appreciates the Lord's beauty in awe and veneration, he is situated in the neutral stage of love of God. The science of devotional service, Bhakti-yoga, analyzes direct love of God in 5 main categories called rasas or tastes. Dasyaras is the transcendental affection, servitude. The followers of Krishna who live in the transcendental city of Dwarka are all great devotees who are constantly engaged in various personal services to the Lord. Each soul, according to its constitutional nature, possesses a unique loving relationship with Krishna in one of the 5 principal categories. Sakyaras is the fraternal devotion. Krishna's friends would immediately come and try to relieve his fatigue in different ways. Krishna's divine energy, Yog Maya, causes his intimate devotees to forget that he is actually God, thus allowing them to experience pure love for him in the rasa of friendship. This is the friendship with the Gopas. Vatsaliras, or the parenthood, Maharaj Nanda addressed his wife, "My dear Yashoda, how wonderful Krishna looks and how he is increasing my transcendental bliss more and more. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. He sometimes lets his confidential devotees think of him as a son and enjoys their parental affection." And lastly, the Madhuriras, or the devotional service in conjugal love. The intimate mellow of devotion to the Supreme in conjugal love is exhibited by Radha and Krishna, but such feelings are not at all material. Unless a person frees himself from all lusty desires for material sense enjoyment, he can never experience or even understand pure love of God in the conjugal rasa. Also, there are the pictures where Krishna is playfully impersonating Abhimanyu, the so-called husband of Radharani, as part of his confidential amorous pastimes. Krishna sometimes acts in joking ways to increase the love of the gopis. And there's another picture where, seeing the fearful giant bull, the gopis, due to the madness of love, embrace the tamal trees, which resemble Krishna's bodily hue, which is like dark in color. The gopis are all most intimate devotees of Krishna and exhibit the highest love of God. Sometimes the intensity of their love causes them to act in transcendental madness. Then this picture of Krishna's young devotee friends assisting Mother Yashoda in dressing him. The spiritual world is full of ever-increasing love for Supreme Lord. There is no way to measure the love and devotion Krishna's devotees feel for him. Then there is a picture of Yashoda Maya binding Krishna with the ukhal or the wooden mortar. It's It's written there because under the picture that because of her ecstatic love for him, Krishna allowed Mother Yashoda to bind him with ropes. Yashoda experiences spiritual love for Krishna that resembles the affection a mother feels toward her child after catching him stealing butter. She dutifully chastises her naughty transcendental son. There's a picture of the cowherd boys playing with the Supreme Person as though they are on an equal level, but practicing the science of devotional service through hearing, chanting, meditating, etc. One comes to the perfectional stage of being promoted to the spiritual world and there attains the direct association of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there's another picture of the young sage who got his finger burnt in his meditation. This illustrates the absolute nature of Krishna consciousness. By the proper practice of meditation, one can directly experience the presence of Krishna. And another picture of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago in West Bengal, India, to propagate the chanting of Hare Krishna all over the world. Also, there's a picture of the interior of the Samadhi of shrine of Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī. On the altar is his japamala or chanting beads, sanctified by his chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Also, the place of worship of Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī, a recipient of the special mercy of Lord Chaitanya, empowered by the Lord. He wrote many transcendental literatures on the science of devotional service. And there's a picture of Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī and Srila Sanatana Goswami collected many revealed scriptures on the basis of which they compiled numerous conclusive books on devotional service and excavated many lost sites of pilgrimage in Vrindavan. Of course, there's a picture of Srila Prabhupada. I'll show you the picture of the Samadhi of Rūpa Gosvāmī. So continuing with our reading now, there are certain prescribed methods for employing our senses and mind in such a way that our dormant Krishna consciousness for loving Krishna will be invoked as much as the child with a little practice can begin to walk. One who has no basic walking capacity cannot walk by practice. Similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. Actually, there is no such practice. When we wish to develop our innate capacity for devotional service, there are certain processes by which, by our accepting and executing them, will cause that dormant capacity to be invoked. Such practice is called sadhana bhakti. Every living entity under the spell of material energy is held to be in an abnormal condition of madness. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, generally the conditioned soul is mad because he is always engaged in activities which are the causes of bondage and suffering. Spirit soul in his original condition is joyful, blissful, eternal and full of knowledge. Only by his implication in material activities has he become miserable, temporary and full of ignorance. This is due to vikarma. Vikarma means actions which should not be done. Therefore, we must practice sadhana bhakti, which means to offer mangalarti, deity worship in the morning, to refrain from certain material activities, to offer obeisances to the spiritual master, and to follow many other rules and regulations which will be discussed here one after another. These practices will help one become cured of madness, as a man's mental disease is cured by the directions of a psychiatrist. So this sadhana bhakti cures the conditioned soul of his madness. Under the spell of Maya, material illusion, Narad Muni mentions this sadhana bhakti in Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 1st chapter, verse 32. He says there to King Yudhishthir, my dear king, one has to fix his mind on Krishna by any means. This is called Krishna consciousness. It is the duty of the Acharya, the spiritual master, to find the ways and means for his disciple to fix his mind on Krishna. That is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us an authorized program for this purpose, centered around the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This chanting has so much power that it immediately attaches one to Krishna. That is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. Okay. Somehow or other, one has to fix his mind on Krishna. The great saint Ambrish Maharaj, although a responsible king, fixed his mind on Krishna, and similarly, anyone who tries to fix his mind in this way will very rapidly make progress in successfully reviving his original Krishna consciousness. Now, this sadhana bhakti or practice of devotional service may also be divided into two parts. The first part is called the service. It's called service according to the regulative principles. One has to follow these different regulative principles by the order of the spiritual master or the strength of authoritative scriptures, and there can be no question of refusal. That is called Vaidhi or regulated. One has to do it without argument. Another part of sadhana bhakti is called raganuga. Raganuga refers to the point at which, by following regulative principle, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of natural love. For example, a person engaged in devotional service may be ordered to rise early in the morning and offer arti, which is a form of deity worship. In the beginning, by the order of the spiritual master, one rises early in the morning and offers arati, but then he develops real attachment. When he gets this attachment, he automatically tries to decorate the deity and prepare different kinds of dresses and thinks of different plans to execute his devotional service nicely. Although it is within the category of practice, this offering of loving service is spontaneous. So the practice of devotional service sadhana bhakti can be divided into two parts, namely regulative and spontaneous. Rūpa Gosvāmī defines the first part of devotional practice or Vaidhi Bhakti as follows. When there is no attachment or no spontaneous loving service to the Lord, and one is engaged in the service of the Lord simply out of obedience to the Lord of the spiritual to the order of the spiritual master, or in pursuance of the scripture, such obligatory service is called Vaidhi Bhakti. These principles of Vaidhi Bhakti are also described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Second canto, first chapter, verse 5, where Shukadeva Goswami instructs the dying Maharaj Parikshit as to his course of action. Maharaj Parikshit met Shukadeva Goswami just a week before his death, and the king was perplexed as to what should be done before he was to pass on. Many of the sages also arrived there, but no one could give him the proper direction. Shukadeva Goswami, however, gave his direction to him as follows. My dear king, if you want to be fearless in meeting your death next week, for actually everyone is afraid at the point of death, then you must immediately begin the process of hearing and chanting and remembering God. If one can chant and hear Hare Krishna and always remember Lord Krishna, then he is sure to become fearless of death, which may come at any moment. In the statements of Shukadeva Goswami, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. Therefore, Shukadeva recommends that one should always hear about Krishna. He does not recommend that one can hear and chant about the demigods. The Mayavadis or the impersonalists say that one may chant any name, either that of Krishna or those of the demigods, and the result will be there. But actually, this is not a fact. According to authorized version of the Srimad Bhagavatam, one has to hear and chant about Lord Vishnu, that is Krishna only. So Shukadeva Goswami has recommended to Parikshit Maharaj that in order to be fearless of death, one has to hear and chant and remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna by all means. He also mentions that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Sarvatma. Sarvatma means the super soul of everyone. So we have got another name for super soul, Sarvatma. Krishna is also mentioned as Ishvara, the supreme controller who is situated in everyone's heart. Therefore, if some way or another we become attached to Krishna, he will make us free from all the danger. In Bhagavad-Gita, it is said that anyone who becomes a devotee of the Lord is never vanquished. Otherwise, however, are always Others, however, are always vanquished. Vanquished means that after getting this human form of life, a person does not come out of the entanglement of birth and death and thus misses his golden opportunity. Such a person does not know where he is being thrown by the laws of the nature. Suppose one does not develop Krishna consciousness in this human form of life, he'll be thrown out into the cycle of birth and death, involving 8.4 million species of life, and his spiritual identity will remain lost. One does not know whether he is going to be a plant or a beast or a bird or something like that, because there are so many species of life. The recommendation of Rupa Goswami for reviving our original Krishna consciousness is that somehow or other we should always apply our mind to Krishna very seriously and thus also become fearless of death. After death, we do not know our destination because we are completely okay. One does not know whether he's going to be a plant or a beast or a bird or something like that because there are so many species of life. The recommendation of Rupa Goswami for reviving our original Krishna consciousness is that somehow or other we should apply our minds to Krishna very seriously and thus also become fearless of death. After death, we do not know our destination because we are completely under the control of laws of nature. Only Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is controller over the laws of nature. Therefore, if we take shelter of Krishna seriously, there will be no fear of being thrown back into the cycle of so many species of life. A sincere devotee will surely be transferred to the abode of Krishna as affirmed in Bhagavad-Gita. In the Padma Puran, also the same process is advised. That it is said, one should always remember Lord Vishnu. This is called dhyana or meditation, always remembering Krishna. It is said that one has to meditate on his mind fixed upon other Vishnu. Padma Puran recommends that one always fix his mind on the form of Vishnu by meditation and not forgetting him at any moment. And in this state of consciousness, it's called samadhi or trance. We should always try to mold the activities of our lives in such a way that we will constantly remember Vishnu or Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. Whether one concentrates his mind on the four-handed form of Vishnu or on the form of two-handed Krishna, it is the same. The Padma Puran recommends somehow or others always think of Vishnu without forgetting him under the circumstances. Actually, this is the most basic of the actually it is most basic of all regulative principles. For when there is an order from superior about doing something, there are simultaneously a prohibition. When the order is that one should always remember Krishna, the prohibition is that one should never forget him. Within this simple order and prohibition, all regulative principles are bound completely. The regulative principle is applicable to all varnas and ashrams, the castes and occupations of life. There are four varnas, namely the brahmanas, the priests and intellectuals, the kshatriyas, the warrior and statesmen, the vaishyas, businessmen and farmers, right, where were we? And the shudras, laborers and servants. There are also four standard ashrams, namely brahmacharya, grihastha, vanprastha and sannyas. Vanprastha, which is retired, and sannyas is renounced, grihastha is householder, brahmacharya is the student life. The regulative principles are not only for the brahmacharis, that is the celibate students, to follow, but are applicable for all. It doesn't matter whether one is a beginner, a brahmachari, or is very advanced, a sannyasi. The principle of remembering the Supreme Lord of the Personality of Godhead constantly and not forgetting him at any moment is meant to be followed by everyone without fail. If this injunction is followed, then all other rules and regulations will automatically fall into line. All the other Vishnu and all of the rules and regulations should be treated as assistants or servants to this one basic principle. injunction of rules and regulations and the resultant reactions are mentioned in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, verses 2 and 3. Kamsa Muni, one of the 9 sages who came in to instruct Nimi, addressed the king and said, the four social orders, namely the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas and the Shudras, have come out of different part of the universal form of the Supreme Lord as follows. The Brahmanas have come out from the head, the Kshatriyas from the arms, the Vaishyas from the waist, and Shudras have come out from the legs. Similarly, the Sannyasis have come out of the head, Vanprastha from the arms, Gristas from the waist, and Brahmacharis from the legs. These different orders of society and grades of spiritual advancement are conceived in terms of qualification. That the 4 social orders and the 4 spiritual orders are created by the Lord Himself in terms of different individual qualities, as the different parts of the body have different types of activities. So the social worker and spiritual order also have different types of activities in terms of qualification and position. The target of these activities, however, is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As confirmed in Bhagavad-Gita, He is the Supreme Enjoyer. So whether one is a Brahman or a Shudra, one has to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by one's activity. This is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by a verse which reads, everyone must be engaged in his particular duty, but the perfection of such ways should be tested by how far the Lord is satisfied with such activities. The injunction herein is that one has to act according to his position. By such activities, one must either satisfy the Supreme Personality or else fall down from one's position. For example, a Brahmana who is born out of the head of the Lord and has his business to preach the transcendental Vedic sounds or Shabda from Brahma, because the Brahmana is the for example, a Brahman who is born out of the head of the Lord has as his business to preach the transcendental Vedic sounds or Shabda Brahma. Because the Brahman is the head, so he has to preach the transcendental world, and he also has to eat on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Vedic injunctions, when a Brahman that the Brahma should simply eat on behalf of the Lord and not preach the message of Bhagavad-Gita to the world. Actually, one has to preach the message of the Gita in it is very dear to Bhagwan or Krishna. It is confirmed that Gita itself actually, one who preaches the message of Gita is very dear to Krishna, as is confirmed in Gita itself. Such a preacher is actually a Brahman, and by feeding then him, one finds the Supreme Lord directly. Similarly, the Kshatriya has to protect people from the onslaughts of Maya. This is duty. For example, as soon as Maharaj Parikshit saw that a black man was attempting to kill a cow, he immediately took his sword, wanting to kill the black man whose name was Kali. That is Kshatriya's duty. Violence is required in order to give protection. The Bhagavad-Gita, Lord Krishna directly gave his order to Arjuna. Krishna gave orders to Arjuna to commit violence on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to give perfection to the people in general. The Vaishyas are meant for producing agricultural products, trading them and distributing them, and the working class or Shudras are those who haven't got the intelligence of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas or the Vaishyas, and therefore they're meant to help these higher classes by bodily labor. In this way, there is full cooperation and spiritual advancement among all the different orders of the society, and when there is no such cooperation, the members of society will fall down. This is the apparent position in the Kali Yuga, this age of Kali. Is puffed by calling themselves Brahmana or intellectual, or a Kshatriya, which is soldier or statesman. But actually, such people are without status. They are not out of touch with Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they are but actually such people are without status, and they are out of touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are not Krishna consciousness. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement is intended to set the whole of human society in proper condition, so that everyone will be able and take some path or take some therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement is intended to set the whole of human society in proper condition, so that everyone will be happy and not speaking from the happy and take profit from developing Krishna consciousness. Lord Shri Krishna instructed Uddhav that by following the injunctions of the social and spiritual orders of human society, one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he, as a result of such satisfaction, right. Now we're nearly coming to the end of this chapter. Little bit reading is left. Lord Krishna instructed Uddhava that by following the injunctions of the social and spiritual orders of human society, one can satisfy the human personality of Godhead, and as a result of such a satisfaction, the whole society gets the necessities of the life simply and without difficulty. This is because after all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead maintains all the living entities. If the whole society performs through repetitive duties and remain in Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that all of its members will very happily, peacefully without waiting the necessities of life, the whole world will be turned into Vaikuntha, the spiritual abode, even with being transferred to the There is a small similar statement by Sri Krishna himself to Uddhava in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Thus, the Krishna consciousness movement is so nice that there is no need of even designing oneself Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishudra, Brahmachari, Grasta, Vanprastha, or Sannyasi. Let there be engaged in whatever occupations designed designing oneself Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, 4. Right. The Krishna consciousness movement is so nice that there is no dearth of even designating ourselves Brahman, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari. That will adjust the whole situation, and anyone will be happy and peaceful within this world. In the Narad Pancharatra, the regulative principles of devotional service are described as follows: any activity sanctioned in the revealed scriptures and aiming at the satisfaction of the Supreme is accepted by saintly leaders as regulative principles of devotional service. If one acquires regularly executes with such service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the direction of bona fide spiritual master, then gradually he rises to the platform of serving in pure love of Godhead. So this was chapter 2, 10 first stages of devotion. Thank you for joining. Hare Tat Sir.